All right, welcome everybody. I guess we're live now. I don't have my oldest son is going to join me here pretty soon, but um, I have had a hectic day. We've got some snow coming into Western Montana tonight and tomorrow, and so my work schedule got compressed very quickly. A lot of nervous folks out there when it comes down to their yard cleanup and things like that. So that's just something that's the way it goes. But so I'm a little bit disorganized. I have a bunch of stuff that I've written down, so I'm going to be referring to my notes probably more than I usually do. But at the same time, this is a topic I love. This is the kind of watch topic I really am passionate about. So this is not anything that is I don't know, just out of the ordinary for me. So I love military style watches. I love pilot watches. I love field watches. I love the hybrids. I love the old versions. I love the new versions. Even the quartz, Casios, the G-Shocks, those kind of things. These watches are my passion. Now, the reason for this, quite frankly, I'm scheduling these out. I've got kind of a tentative schedule in my head over the next 3 or 4 months. It is because we have Veterans Day coming up November 11th. So this was the last live stream that we have before the Veterans Day celebration of the veterans who've given their lives for our country in the United States. So I'm not sure what that's like in other countries, but for the United States, it's November 11th, which is a reflection of the end of World War I. And so there you go. That's kind of the theme. That's the reason for the theme of this. And that's something that I think is really important for the freedoms that we have here. So anyway, we'll just get started going down the list of, the things that I really enjoy about these watches. I'm going to start off with pilot watches. For me, pilot watches there's just something about a pilot watch. And when it comes down to just the design, when it comes down to the usefulness of it, and even the pilot watches that have, the slide rule calculators, I forget what the actual name is, but, it's a logarithmic slide rule that's on there. I actually have a slide rule that I have over here that I'll hold this up. You can kind of see it. And I've used it on occasion, and every time I use it, I have to go back and relearn it. But it's one of those things that it's pretty cool, actually. Like you can do a lot of cool things with a slide rule. Now these are circular slide rules. They have other ones that are actually slide rules, but this is a circular one, and all you do is you're finding your base 10, and then you start using the dial, and based on math, you just rotate one dial and you line up the markers on another location on the opposite dial, and you do the calculation. So that's part of the intrigue that I have with pilot watches is some of that calculation. Some of those really busy dials to me are pretty interesting. It's a challenge to learn them. Yeah. Do I use it very much? Probably not. I do most of my math in my head. So I'm calculating, and I've heard other YouTubers go out there and say, well, you can calculate the tip, or you can calculate tax or those kind of things. I'm just thinking, like, I don't really need it for that. I need it for calculating, angle of descent, or what is the grade of this particular, I don't know, it's something more complex. That's what I'm getting at. So anyway, the military style watches are fantastic. Pilot watches have a fascination for me. The field watch, though, the guys and the gals on the ground, is probably the one that I have the most of. And so for me, the field watch really does reflect the simplicity, the clarity, telling the time, and in most cases it has some loom to it, especially the analog version. If you have the Casio, the digital version, and you're going G-Shock or whatever the style is, the light that goes on and off is helpful too, because when it comes down to those kinds of positions in the military, you don't want to have loom on your wrist at all times. So but those are the rationale for the field watch and the pilot watch. I love them. I think they're great. I think the design is great. I would say a third, if not maybe a little bit more of that, is my collection is made up of those two style of watches. So I just think they're great. And I'm just finishing up, and it's been a kind of a frustrating day with law enforcement video that was prompted by the YouTube viewer Johan, and it's been great. It's been a challenge, but it's like 40 minutes long. So And the interesting thing is the overlap between law enforcement as far as the style of the watch and the field watch. And so there's a lot of good things. And I just finished, if I could only have one military style watch, what would it be? And again, that was themed intentionally for this month prior to Veterans Day, which was November 11th. So, and I'm looking to my right because I got the watches over here, so I'm just distracted by that. Anyway, the field watch though it's just fantastic, and the overlap to law enforcement, which is what I was a part of for a handful of years, is great. So that's the theme behind this particular show. The real question is, for those that are out there, what field watches or what pilot watches do you like? What field watches speak to you? Easy to wear, have the most wear time. Sometimes you have these watches and you don't wear them very much, and I think that's a shame. I think you really need to force yourself to wear them, or pass them on to somebody who's going to wear them. I think, or find another person who's interested in field watches and encourage them to wear them and things like that. Just make sure these watches get worn some way, somehow. But what kind of watches do you guys wear when it comes down to field watches or pilot watches? Pilot watches, to me, I got a few of them. Let's see. I've got 1, 2, 3. I think I've got 3, maybe 4. And then of course you get quartz watches in there that probably could do a lot of the same things too. But the pilot watch is a little bit different. I think that one truly is more of a nostalgic thing. I don't really have, a lot of watches, a lot of use for it. Vice versa. Sometimes you have a lot of watches and you force yourself to use it more. Other times you're into that pilot world and you have more watches. So it's one can feed the other. And so that's just not, I just don't do a lot of piloting. I've driven boats. That's about as close as to flying a plane as I've gotten, captain of a boat. So, and it's a fishing boat, by the way. It's nothing big. It was a 17-foot Starcraft with a 90-horse motor on the back. So nothing really too big. But anyway, we're gonna get into this. We're gonna talk a little bit about just the different styles I've got, the ones that I really like and why. We'll start off with the pilot watch. And the Flieger watch, okay, I don't know about anybody else out there, but the Flieger style watch is not a watch that really initially spoke to me a lot. So anybody out there that's watching this, like, is the Flieger watch one that's kind of like, yeah, that's one of those history watches. It's great for others to have. I'm just not really interested in the Flieger watch. But the Flieger watch to me has kind of grown on me. And I'm glad there's two types. You have type A and type B. Type A is the one that has, the numbers on it, the hour markers. Okay. And then the type B has instead of hour markers, it has minutes. So 5, 10, 15, 20. And to me, I have a really hard time going with type B. I don't know if anybody else out there has a hard time. If you have those, do you have A and B, or just B, or just A? I'm just the A kind of guy. I like the hour markers. I like the numbers on there. To me, it seems like it's a little bit more useful. Having the minute marker only on there, the 5, 10, 15, 20, in my mind, there's a processing piece of like, okay, so the 5 is the 1, the 10 is the 2, and so on. Not a big deal, but it's like one extra step that I'm not used to using or not used to doing. So that to me that's part of it when it comes down to choosing the A over the B, because it just is more familiar because of the other watches, analog watches that I have. But I like the clarity of the Flieger. Now, this is a Rudland off AliExpress, and I have to say I chose this one because there's a little bit of kid coming out of this one too. You look at the turbine for the small seconds. Instead of a small seconds hand, you have a turbine. And for whatever reason, I looked at this and I'm like, you know what? I'm going with that one because it's got a little something different. And it reminds me of being a kid, a watch that just had some weird thing on it that is just, an attractant for preteens. You know what I mean? Something shiny. It's almost worthless. Like this turbine is really almost worthless because now they do have the 45 and the 15-second markers on here. And the hands are covering up the 12 o'clock position, so to speak. But it does have a 45, and let's see if I can point it out with this pen over here. So there's the 45 right above the 5 o'clock marker. There's a 45, and over here is the 15. So it has the second markers on there, and there is a little red dot on one of the fins on the turbofan. But this watch, when I got it out of the box from AliExpress and put it on the time grapher, 0 seconds off, 0 on the beat error. And I was shocked. And this is a manual wind, okay? And it lasts about 2 days, day and a half. I'd say about a day and a half. Great watch. I mean, it's fantastic. I love it. It's the right size too. It's a little bit bigger, and of course, the Fliegers, the original Fliegers that were used by the German Luftwaffe, were in the 50 millimeter range, 50, 55. I don't remember which one it was, but it's a massive dial. And again, the bigger the dial, the more legible it tends to be, and the more precise your hand movements on the dial tend to be. You can really get things down to the nitty gritty on the seconds and so on and so forth. So the Flieger to me has been one of a little bit of reluctance. I'll tell you one thing I still haven't gotten over is the rivets on the band or on the strap. I'm not a fan of that yet. I'm okay with it right now. It reminds me a little bit of a black leather jacket with a bunch of rivets on it. And I don't know if I can get over that or not, but that was, I guess, one way that they really made the strap, stay together at the spring bar. So, but it's a cool looking watch. I mean, there's nothing else on there. They're pretty plain when it comes down to the dial, labeling, things like that. So yeah, I think the Flieger, it's a pretty decent pilot watch. Moving on to the next one, we're going to go with this one, which is the Bulova A15. I highly recommend this one. The Bulova A15 is almost a one-to-one reissue of the original. If you've seen the original, which was manufactured and not put into service, but it was ready to go back in 1945, I believe, for the American pilots, made by Bulova, this is almost exactly what it looked like. And to me, that's one of the things I gravitated towards, was just a really vintage looking watch, modern movement. It's got a Miyota movement in there, and it keeps good time. And the downside is, and this is a pretty common complaint with this particular watch, are the 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock crowns are not screw down crowns. And so you can see that the internal bezels are just a little bit off. Okay. And that just comes from wearing it. So you can set it back, and I'll get these back to 12 again. There we go. But when you wear the watch, just the action of the watch on your wrist will eventually move one of the bezels a little bit. And the longer you wear it, it moves it just a little bit more. So as far as the reliability of the timing function of those bezels, not quite as good as advertised, but it's not an expensive watch either. It's relatively cheap, which I like. I put a different NATO strap on here. This is a Horween leather NATO strap. I actually went back out to look for it because somebody messaged me and asked me where I got this NATO strap. And all I can tell you, it's Horween. I've gone through all my emails on the shipping, and I cannot find a receipt of where I got this. And I can't find it on eBay or anywhere else where they might sell something like this, because the reason I got this, and here's the reason why, is because this leather strap is very thin. So being a double pass, you don't get a lot of extra height of the watch head off the wrist. So yeah, that one is good. Sapphire crystal, pretty good lume. Yeah, well, lume on the on this one, we'll go through some of this. This is sapphire crystal hand wind. Small second hand, which is actually the turbofan at the bottom, but it keeps really, really good time. Very comfortable to wear. On the inside here, you can see the hand wound movement. So it's got a display case back, which is pretty cool. That I can appreciate that. I think hand wind and the ST1901 are the only reasons I would want to have a display case back. Otherwise, I'm not a huge fan of the display case backs. There's a solid case back, nothing to really show on the backside, but really great job when it comes down to a reissue of a classic. Never saw official service, and I guess there's some limited numbers of the originals out in circulation that are very, very rare. So I'm going to try and pull up a slide here of my oldest son. He had a Chronofix pilot watch, and I bought it. And for me, let's see if I can pull this up here. There it is. So this is the watch that I bought a while back. Oh man, I think it's a year now. And it's a fantastic watch. It has a high beat Miyota movement. I think it's a 9015. and he sent this in, and we'll kind of talk a little about this one. But this has that slide rule on there, which it's really not that hard to use and get used to. It also has other conversions that you can do on here. You can convert miles to kilometers, I think gallons to liters, and I think there's one other one on there that's really easy to do. I think it's miles and nautical miles, statutory miles, nautical miles. So, and you can set this up, and you position the bezel in one position, and then you just go around, find your conversion. There it is. There's the number, and bingo, you're done. So for conversions, I actually think the slide rule is pretty slick, pretty fast. Not a lot of issues with that. But the slide rule does take a little bit of getting used to. Spend a little time getting used to it and practice it. Use it over and over and over again whenever you can. Sometimes I just get it out just to do random calculations, just to exercise my brain. So I know I'm rusty. I probably couldn't do it right now, but I think this is one that it's fantastic. I really, really, really like it. So take a look at any pilot watch that's out there. There's kind of like, what I'm seeing is that there's like two versions of it. There's the pilot version like this, where it's really busy dials, maybe has a chronograph on it, and it has the slide rules and all that stuff on there, which is fantastic. Give yourself some time to learn it. And then you've got kind of the Flieger style, and I think that's another style. Those are the two styles I've seen. So in the comments, I'd love to know if there's any other major styles that I'm missing. I know Breitling has it. I mean, the higher end stuff, Breitling's got the Navitimer. What else is out there? Oh, I have the Nighthawk. Let me grab that real quick. All right, the Nighthawk. I'm on the wrong screen here. Let's try this. There we go. Let's move it back over to this. There we are. Okay. The Citizen Nighthawk. Yeah, I'm a fan. I like this watch. This is one that Dave over at Just the Watch did an episode on this, and it's a classic. Now, this one is different from and what I like about this one versus the Bulova, because they both have internal rotating crowns or internal rotating bezels. And that is, first of all, this is on the left-hand side. It just seems like it doesn't turn quite as easily, but you can rotate that bezel by just turning that. It's a little bit more difficult to turn than the bezel on the Bulova A15. This one is like unusually easy to turn. So as far as pilot watches go, I really do like the Navitimer or the Nighthawk. This is not a Breitling. I really do like the Nighthawk. I think it's a great design. And the other thing, now I'm going to go back to the Chronofix here, because the Chronofix, where'd we go? Right here. The Chronofix, if you look at the difference between these two, and I'll put this up here, you can see that the Nighthawk has a few more things going on in there. The center of the dial is used up with the GMT function. It's a little bit more busy. But what you can't see on these two, on the video and also on the slide, is that the Chronofix is actually smaller as far as dial goes. So not only do you have a rotating bezel, you have an inner slide rule computation slide rule in there. Then you also have your timing function on the inside. That's also useful. Then you get to the dial where the actual hour markers are and the hands on the inside of that. It gets really small really fast. And the problem I had with it when I bought it was I had a hard time reading it. It was small without glasses on, and I'd have to really focus in on it. So for a guy with old eyes like me, like, I'm going to give this to a young buck. And so my oldest son, I gave it to him, and I think he's enjoying it pretty well. So that's the extent of the pilot watches that I have or had are these four. Looking around here, I don't think the Hamilton Khaki Field Chrono is not really a pilot watch, but that's the extent of the pilot watches. I like the styles. I'm good with it. I'm warming up to the Flieger. I prefer the slide rule piece to it. But I think this is something that it's there. It's not my favorite military style watch. It's the field watch that I really get turned up about. And the field watch to me is incredible. And I've got a few examples of that. My favorite, I think, overall field watch, oh boy, it's going to be a couple of them. Yeah, I think we're going to start off with this one. Pretty popular. This is the Baltony. vintage military chrono. Hard to go wrong with this quartz chronograph, and it has that really clear dial, almost a sector dial because the way the words run from the 9 o'clock to the 3 o'clock, it almost looks like a sector dial, but those are words, so it's maybe hard to see on the screen. But it says Baltony and chronograph, and it gives kind of that crosshair effect. Running second hand at the 6 o'clock, and then you have the 60-minute time total at the top. But it's just such a simple watch. Field watches to me are just so simple. You know, you've got that one. I've got the other one, the Swiss Watch Company Bunker. This one was the pick for the analog watch on the, if I can only have one military style watch, what would it be? This one. This one's got so many great features about it. Titanium case, sapphire crystal, 100 meters of water resistance, Sellita SW200 movement. So it's a smooth moving second hand, screw down crown. Very, very lightweight. You look at this watch, you put it on, and this is, I replaced it with a leather strap because I think it goes really well with leather. But it came with this nylon Velcro strap, and it was so light and so light on the wrist. Like it's one of those, I don't know if you've ever had in these watches that are so light, it's almost like it's not there. I know there's some Casios out there that are like that, but this is a field watch, and the dial on this watch, here's a 39 millimeter. And I think this one, the SWC, is a 41, if I remember right. I think it's a couple more millimeters bigger than the Baltony. So it's not a small watch on the wrist, but it just plays mind tricks with you, Jedi mind tricks, as far as the overall weight. And it's the lume on this watch is awesome. The Swiss Watch Company has nailed it. I'm a lume nut. I love good lume because it just extends the usability of the watch overall. So I don't know. This is a good question for the watches, but do you prefer to have really good lume on these watches or not? My oldest son, I think, would say, maybe not, because in the military, you're probably not going to want to have a glowing object on your wrist. And that's where the light comes in. So when you have a digital watch, light is on and it's off and it's over. It doesn't continue to glow. You don't have to hide it. You don't have to turn the watch upside down on your wrist to, keep it from giving away your position or whatever. So, but for me, a non-military guy, I want this watch to be usable for a longer period of time. So for me, I think it's just more useful to have better lume on there. Another one, this is a dark horse, I know. And I'll pull out some of these really common ones here too. But the Caravel, and the model number on this one, I think I've got this right. It's 45C119 is the model in this one. And this one is cool. It has the actually Flieger Type A dial on it. When you look at a Flieger, it has a little triangle at the top at the 12. That's a signature item on a Flieger. Okay. So it's got kind of a Flieger dial, and it's labeled as a military watch. I don't think Caravel labels this as a pilot. I think they just label it as a military watch. But it has that Flieger dial to it. Contrast is not as good. You have kind of that off light colored drab green and, white numerals. Quartz movement, 50 meters. No, this one's 30 meters of water resistance. That's the downside to this one. But what this has that I really like, and I'm not sure if I can pull this off. We'll see. Yeah, you can see it. It has a backlight on it. So it's almost like Indiglo. For whatever reason, they put this in there, and I love it. I think it's great. So the hands are also lumed, and I'll turn on the lume on this one too. But you can see the hand and the second hand are lumed. Okay, so that's good. And that way, you get a little bit of the best of both worlds out of this. Quartz movement, so grab and go, easy to go. I don't like the thickness of the strap. But as far as a field watch goes, this is a little bit dressier. It has a little more flash to it. It's polished, but it has a plated case. I think it's kind of a charcoal plated case, which has kind of a cool look to it. So it's not like, a dull finish, ready for the field, ready for action kind of thing. But I really like it a lot. Now, class watch, and I believe this one is being issued currently, or at least at PXs for military personnel. That is the Bertucci DX3. Now, great watch, quartz watch. I really like it. Cool thing about this field style watch is the 12, 3, 6, and 9 are bigger than the rest of the hour markers. So it sets your watch up into quadrants. And I think that's something that you should take a look at when it comes down to the style of the hour markers, and really investigate, really look those over, because some of these have smaller numbers. I'm going to pull up the Flieger again. When you look at the style of a field watch, okay, this is a pilot watch. Now, this is an AliExpress pilot watch, so you're going to get some funky stuff out of AliExpress, but this is a great example of how they're messing around a little bit with the Flieger style watch, because the numbers are so small. I can't hardly see what I'm pointing at here, but the numbers are smaller. So this has a smaller dial, but I think it has bigger numbers than the Flieger style watch. Okay. So investigate, in my opinion, investigate your field watch a little bit as far as the size of the dial, the size of the numbers. And I think you'll find that with just a little attention to care of that, you're going to end up with an even more legible dial. Here's an example, Casio MRW 200. It's a great quartz dive watch. Is it a field watch? Nah, not really. It has a bezel. Typically, field watches don't have a bezel. But I wanted to point this out because when you put these two together, the Bertucci and the Casio MRW 200, you can see what a bezel does to the inner part of the dial, and that is it compresses everything. So, you know, when it comes down to anything with a bezel, you're going to lose some real estate on the dial, and legibility suffers a little bit. Precision over where the second hand is, you're going to lose a little bit of that, especially if you have an automatic movement where you're getting the, multiple ticks per second. So I think that's something to keep in mind when it comes down to choosing a field watch. Field watches to me are just like, I don't know, it's like a drug. I like them a lot. And a really cheap option that's out there. All these watches I have reviews out for. I think all of them I've shown so far I've done a review on. I do have one or two that haven't made it on screen yet, but they're not out here right now. I'm going to charge this guy up. Okay, so this is a $25 watch off Amazon. And the reason I got this was when I did the EMT and nurse watches, I was just looking for a full lume dial, something really cheap. And this was $25. Infantry MDC. Let's see if I can cover this up a little bit. Oh boy, it's like it's washing out the camera. It's that bright. It really is that bright too. That's no lie. That is not a reflection of light. That's actually the dial looming up. $25 on Amazon. It has 24-hour marker on the inside ring. It has the minute markers on the minute track. It has clear hour markers, 12, 1 through 12. Because it's full lume dial, it has blackout hands. Something to keep in mind on any kind of full lume dial, and that is I prefer to have blackout hands. I'm going to charge up another full lume dial that has a set of loomed hands. And what happens then, and you can see the problem here, they're both charged up. And when they're both charged up, which handset can you see more easily? It's going to be the blackout hands, right? Because the contrast is higher. So this is a Citizen ProMaster Diver automatic left-hand crown. But you can see the hands, try and hold still here, but you can see that the hands also have lume on them, but they just don't have the same contrast, especially during the day, which is the majority of when you're wearing the watch. So to me, if you're going to do full lume dial, even full lume dial on a field watch, I highly recommend the blackout hands because it just adds a lot more contrast to the situation. All right. Do I have a Hamilton a khaki field watch? Yes, I do. And this is actually a chronograph. And this big fella right here, a monster. All right. I think it's close to 15 millimeters tall, 14 and a half maybe. But this is a beefy fella right here. Classic Hamilton khaki field design. All right. Now the subdials take up the 12 and the 6, so you're missing out on the 12 and the 6. But you can see the Hamilton DNA on this style. And it comes with a green leather strap, and I replaced it with a metal bracelet, and I love it. This is off the Strapco. And then I replaced the clasp with a extend on the fly clasp, which it works really well. I love them. I'm all the dive watches and the watches I look at now in the future are going to have this adjustable on the fly clasp because the work I do, you get all hot, weather's hot outside, your wrist starts to swell up a little bit. So you extend it out, you go back and sit down inside, you're cooling off, and next thing you know, the watch is sliding all over the place, especially with a heavy watch. You get a heavy watch, you want it snug on the wrist. So Hamilton khaki field watches are fantastic. I think for the money, I think they're overpriced. I don't know if anybody else out there feels the same way, but I think they're overpriced. Oh, Josiah, there you are. Let's see here. There he is. So here's Josiah. Josiah, I sent you a link. If you can get online, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I'll just go off your comments. But this is my oldest son. He was going to join me today. He was he is in the Minnesota National Guard, and he was on duty overseas for a year. And most common watch this on your G-Shocks and Garmin watches, especially the G-Shock GBA 900. I haven't heard of that one. In Garmin Instincts, I've heard of that. Some guys ran the military style mechanical watches, but was not as common. So a question for you, Josiah, which was more common, digital watches or, well, I guess you're already answering this, digital versus analog. It looks like analog is going to be, or digital is going to be the preference. But was it the G-Shock digitals that were the most common out there, or was it kind of a mixed bag of just different digital style watches? I don't know. I'm guessing the G-Shock. That'd be my guess if I was to say. G-Shocks have just kind of the corner of the market on the tough guy, the tough watch thing out there. So, but thanks for joining online. There's a few other people online. That's good. So check out the if I could only have one military style watch. It was a collage of pilot watches and field watches together, ran them through a rubric, and then that rubric was there to help determine which of the watches was like the recommendation. Now, it wasn't like I was saying this watch that I have is the best, and one of them was the Bunker. Okay, this is not necessarily the best field watch that's out there. It's according to the rating system and a few other things I have. I think actually it was the Baltony. I'm thinking of, oh shoot, I might have given it away, but the Baltony was the one that came out on top for the military analog field watch. It's not that this one is the best. It's just the qualities that I went through of the ones I had in my collection, those were the best. So that's what I had for that. So check that out. It's a I don't know, it's like 13 minutes long. It's not too long. I try to keep it really low key. The law enforcement one, for some reason, is really long. I have so many watches in there, plus I'm talking law enforcement. So just kind of a preview for anybody out there in law enforcement, wanting to be in law enforcement, security, EMTs, search and rescue. I go through, I think it's almost 20 some watches, and I talk about different styles, different positives and negatives from my experience in law enforcement and what I saw out there that was being worn, what I wore. And just to give you a preview, this was my favorite. I wore this all the time, and that was the Pathfinder. Okay. A lot of reasons for that. Okay. It wasn't a G-Shock. And there's a very specific reason why I think G-Shocks, the majority of G-Shocks are horrible for law enforcement for a couple of very important reasons. You can see that in the video coming out pretty soon. But to everybody their own, they can choose what they want. So let's see here. We got another comment from Josiah. Mixed bag, but primarily those two Garmin's are the most sought after watches. Really? Okay. They have night vision goggle mode. Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. See, now this is the thing, like modern watches. That's a good point. Night vision goggle mode. Yeah, there's that merging of technology so that whatever you have on your wrist works with what you're doing. I get that now. Yeah. You see, I never had any exposure to night vision goggles. I do it here in my house, but not in law enforcement. That was more of a SWAT thing. So, and I was never in SWAT. That is a whole different ball of wax in law enforcement, is special weapons and techniques teams. So, but anyway, so I don't know where I left off on this. I think we were just talking just about different styles of field watches. Oh, digital watches. I didn't talk about digital. Display. Where do we have? Let's see here. Let's just go with. We'll go with this guy. What's this guy over here? Face down. No, that's not it. That's not it. But we'll go with it anyway. Have you ever noticed how many YouTube channels that are really popular have guys with English accents? I think the English accent I have is pretty attractive. It should be, Western Montana accents. All right. So this is the WS 1600 Casio, and this is, I think, something to consider when it comes down to a watch. Now, I'm pulling out some law enforcement stuff here, but there's a lot of similarities between field watches and law enforcement. A lot, not the same, but there's a lot. And so, with that in mind, one of the big things here is legibility and making sure that the watch that you have, you can read. The nice thing about this versus the analog is the light feature, get that on, and then it's off, and you're not exposing yourself to anything else. Downside is these crystals are not sapphire crystals, but most of the time you can replace them. Now the 1600 is case design wise the same as the Royale. So you can do almost anything with the case and with the strap that the Royale has because it's based off of the same dimensions. So, if you replace this crystal with a sapphire crystal, which can be done, you just harden the outside, crystal. There is no crystal guard around here. That's something to keep in mind too when it comes down to bumping into stuff. The crystal is right up near the top. Okay. An example of a Casio that has a little bit of a crystal guard too. Oh, that's not very much at all. Actually, I put them all away because I was just working the tail end of it. So, but a crystal guard would be helpful. But this is the legibility of this. I'm going to pull up the classic square and you compare these two. All right. So you got the square and then you've got, let's see, there we go. They can see it. And then you've got the WS 1600. I call it the zebra because it's for referees. Referees wear, black and white striped shirts, whatever, zebra. All right. The light just went off. But you can see the time. Look at how big the time is. Look at how big the date is. This watch is so much easier for cops to use when it comes down to time stamping stuff. So something to keep in mind when you're looking at digital watches. Look at the size of the time and look at the size of the date. The complete opposite of the spectrum. I'll get this one. I'll get them both up here. Here is a Casio. Okay. There's your digital display in all its glory right there. I'll try to get as much light on that little postage stamp spot. It's not even a postage stamp. It's like the corner of a postage stamp. And then here's the digital display here. Now, the Casio has the analog display, right? Okay. So the analog display is going to be where you're going to get your time. So don't worry about the time here. But look at the date. If you're looking for the date, not even close. Casio sucks when it comes down to it. When it comes down to the digital display. Analog display, it is awesome. It works great. I love Ani-Digi watches. And again, just to show you that you can get the best of both worlds. Okay, here's the Casio. Get that glare out of there. And there is the Pathfinder. Right? Now, look how much more legible that date is. And you can start to see why this watch right here, I think, is an outstanding watch for law enforcement, probably for infantry or for military personnel as well, because you have so many things. You have compass, altimeter, stopwatch, atomic timekeeping, so it adjusts the time all the time. You have lume if you need it. Okay, there you go. There's lume, and it also has a light. I'm trying to figure out where'd the light go. There it goes. It's on the bottom. Okay, so it lights everything up. All right, you get the best of both worlds. I tell you what, that's a really hard watch to beat. So there you go on the military, the field style watches. Got a little bit of the pilot watches in there. So Josiah, I got a question for you if you're still out there. First question. Let's see. Oh, the question I have for Josiah, being a current National Guard infantry guy, what is the current design that you like when it comes down to a watch that you would wear on duty while you're out in let's just say overseas? You're deployed overseas. You're going to wear a watch. What would you wear? Okay, we'll see what he says. I've kind of given you my look at that. I want to show you one more picture, and then I'm going to grab something off my desk. It's not right next to me, but I'm going to show you one more picture. This Chronofix watch, it's not a popular watch. Add to the stage. There we go. Not a popular watch, but this watch, Miyota movement, sapphire crystal, I think it's 100 meters of water resistance, beads of rice bracelet. You've got 4 adjustable micro adjusts on there. Technically, you have 3. I harp on this one a lot on my videos, but you only have 3 adjustments because one of them is in use. So really, you only have 3 other places to go. So just keep that in mind. So when you buy a watch that only has 3 micro adjust holes or 2 micro adjust holes, you have to take it -1. I just remind people of that because it'll say in the advertisement, all 3 micro adjust. No, that's actually 2 that you get to use. Okay, because one is already in use. One is always in use. So anyway, this watch to me is fantastic. Um, just love the design of it. Simple. And the reason I'm bringing this up, this one you can get used typically for a couple $100, and Miyota Movement by itself is worth that much. So used watch market, you don't have to go out and buy something new. You can go out and find, some cool watches in the used market. You have to be comfortable with the idea of getting a used watch. Okay. And there's a few things that I keep track of. Number one, I want to be able to see the watch moving, working. I want to make sure that the buyer or the seller has at least 1,000 sales under their belt. And then I want free returns. Those are the 3 things I have to have to make that purchase of a used watch that is of several $100s or more. Okay. That's kind of my rules so that I have a way out. But I think that is something that you can do this. You don't have to buy new watches all the time. So I'm gonna go grab my Urban Carry. We're gonna switch over to Urban Carry because we're getting down to the last third of the show here. So hang on one sec. All right, back in action. Now we're going to switch gears just a little bit out of the Veterans Day special on field watches, pilot watches, and move over to Urban Carry. One of the things I got in the survey when it comes down to content is to talk a little bit about outdoor gear, things that I have, or just things that are out there that we could source and put into our kits. Whatever kind of kit we're talking about here, it could be, what do you got in your pockets? And that's another important thing is like what you have in your pockets all the time should be the stuff that you use most frequently, and it's the most compact version of that thing that you use most frequently. But then there's kind of the other kit that kind of goes along with you. It might be in the car, and I really like the size of this kit. It's a Maxpedition Mini something. I don't remember what it actually was. I'll try and remember this and put it in the description for the video. But this is the perfect size for me. It's about hand size. Okay. And you can stuff an awful lot of stuff in there. But when it comes down to Urban Carry, and there's all kinds of definitions. I have levels in my mind. Level 1 is pretty much what I have in my pocket. Level 2 is this. This is my level 2 kit. This gets me from point A to point B somewhere between 6 to 12 hours later. That's kind of what I go with. Oh, quick return on Josiah on the watch here. Ideally, what would he like? Ideally, a watch with a nylon strap, GPS, altimeter, night vision goggle mode, stealth mode, disables all GPS and Bluetooth. Yeah, and I think that is a military requirement. I talked to Josiah about that earlier. That GPS is something that you have to be able to disable, I think. If I were to wear a mechanical watch, be something similar to the Hamilton Field Khaki, something simple, lightweight, and durable. Gotcha. Thanks for putting that in there. Excellent. All right. So, Urban Carry kit. Josiah, put out here what you got for your Urban Carry, whether it's just whatever you got in your pocket or whatever you carry around. But to me, this is level 2. Okay. What I have in my pockets is level 1, which could be, and I'll pull it out. This is what I have in my pockets. Okay. I got my cell phone, obviously. Cell phone, all right. Carry a knife, a dedicated knife. Okay, this is the Kaiser. Was it Kaiser Assassin? I also carry multi-tool. I am huge now into Swiss Army knives. This is the Huntsman. I like the Huntsman. I put different scales on here. This is black scales, and I really like that. it's nice. But what I really like about this is I put a pocket clip on the split ring so that it stays off the bottom of my pocket. It stays on the side of my pocket. So this is a game changer in my opinion when you have something, because it's a wider tool, right? It's got, I think, 4 levels to it. So that is something that I have there. And then I think this is the best flashlight out there. This is the Olight S1R Baton. I think this is the Baton 2. Excellent light, and it's shorter than my index finger overall. Has a lockout button on here, so it doesn't accidentally go on. You have to hold it to turn it on. And then when you want to turn it off, you hold it, and then you get this little moonlight glow, and then it turns off, then it's locked. So it won't go on accidentally by pushing the button. I have been carrying this flashlight now for, I think, 2.5 years, 2 years. Charge it about once a month. You can see it gets a lot of use. This light is awesome. I think it's 800 lumens, which is super bright for this size. Maybe it's that or 1,000. I think it's 1,000. 1,000 lumens, it lights up the world. Now, it doesn't stay on 1,000 lumens for a long time. It will automatically shut down or throttle back to 800 because of the heat output. But it is a bright pocket torch, no doubt about it. The downside to this is proprietary charging. It's a magnetic clip that goes over the back to charge the battery. That's not good. I think what I'm looking at now is Type-C, USB-C charging, so that everything's the same. And I'm looking at that. But Olight makes a great, great light. So those are the things I carry in my pocket. Keys. Oh, I also have, the AirPods. All right. And my wallet. There's the AirPod. And I have my wallet, which I don't have on me right now. I have it with my work clothes. But I always carry with my wallet extra cash. And I don't ever touch it. It may be a $50 bill, $100 bill, whatever, but I have it in there and I don't touch it. It is emergency use only. So that's kind of the tier 1 for me for urban carry, right? But what I don't have, and this is like the number 1 thing in the next level, is going to be an extra battery for charging. And this battery, I found this on Amazon. It has a solar panel in the front. It takes, probably 2.5 days, I think, with direct sunlight to charge this thing up. But if necessary, this will charge up in 2.5 days without a cord. Also, I can leave this in the dashboard of my vehicle and it will be charging the entire time, charging all the time, or on the seat. Maybe it's not as hot in the seat. Just leave it out and it's always charging. It's a trickle charger. Okay. The nice thing about this one is it has all the common cords on the backside. It has, let's see, USB-C. It has the Apple Lightning connector. It has the micro USB and it has a regular USB. And then I've rubber banded the USB, and this is a USB. What is that? Micro, I think, for the charging of this. You can directly cord this up, and you can actually charge the battery that's in here a lot faster. So I have that rubber banded together all on here. I got my boys this. This is a great, great battery setup. So I think the key here is whatever battery you get it with a built-in solar panel, because then you can just leave it out. No plugging in of anything. So let's see here. Another comment. Phone, leather wallet. Okay, this is Josiah's. All right, nice. So urban carry, you got phone, leather wallet, skeletonized Gerber, Olight Baton. Yeah. North American Arms 22 mag with, yeah, they're okay. So he's packing. I didn't leave a comment about what I'm packing. I'm not going to talk about that. So, but I think that is something very much worth considering. I'm a pro self-defense person, not just Second Amendment. It is self-defense. And I think, whether it be a knife, whatever it be, have some kind of training or have some kind of tool that is helpful for your own personal defense. As a former cop, the first responder is not a cop. The first responder is you. You are the first one that has to respond to the situation. So you are the first responder, whether you like it or not. The real question is, what are you going to do about it? Okay. And this is the phrase I used when I was doing the armed intruder resistance training with schools, churches, and businesses. I said, this isn't an option of whether or not you're a first responder. You are it. The real question is, what are you going to do about it? And it's okay. Whatever you choose to do, go and do it well. So, all right. One of the pictures I sent me. All right, we'll check that out. I'll have to check my phone though to do that. What? Lost both of your Olights. We have to have a chat afterwards, man. All right. So, first responder type stuff, do that. Be prepared. Be that first responder. Get some training. I would highly recommend a little basic first aid training. Get it every other year. Get trained up on that. It's really helpful. Now, the inside of this, I'm going to attempt to open this up so that you can see what's on the inside. And there you can kind of see the mess. But it has a little bit of everything. I'm going to kind of go through some highlights here. Extra flashlight. This is just a cheap flashlight my sister gave me. She's a nurse. And this actually has pupil dilation a guide on here. So if somebody's been knocked silly, I can know how hard they've been knocked silly or their head is, bashed in or whatever. But anyway, flashlight there. 9-volt battery. I've got some steel wool for fire starting. I also have another multi-tool Gerber dime. I love the Gerber dime. I carried this one for a couple of years before I switched over to Swiss Army knife. This is probably one of my favorite, probably the most compact Swiss or multi-tool that's out there is the Gerber dime. You have a great little pliers. Okay. Awesome pliers. You got a knife. I'm not going to pull everything out. That's a waste of everybody's time. Screwdriver, all that stuff. But it also has, most importantly, and this is what, Swiss Army knives, a lot of people are looking forward to this, the tweezer. Okay. It's the tweezer and it has one. So for this little tiny multi-tool, it packs a lot of good stuff in here. The pliers is actually okay. I like the pliers on here. What else do I have in here? I've got redundancy is good. All right. Being repetitively redundant is a good thing. Have a charging cord for my iPhone, dedicated that. I've got a lighter for whatever the reasons are. I have earplugs. Okay. Get in a situation where it's really loud or I'm out shooting, whatever. I've got an extra set of earplugs. Another lighter in there. I've got an extra battery in here. So this is what my original, I'm going to show you what I went from to what I have gone to. You've seen the solar powered recharging system. I'm going to show you what the old one I had, which was the Goal Zero. Okay. This was my favorite. Really easy. Has a built-in USB charger on the end here. Fold that back. Press the button. Let's see where the light's on here. There they are. So you press the USB in and it activates what the charge is over here. So you kind of see that. So I've got that in here. It's more compact than the other one, but the other one has a solar charger. It has all the cords built in. I really like that one a lot better. Extra flashlight. This is the Rovivon A2, I believe. Rechargeable. And I think this is the micro. Maybe this is the micro. Yes, this is actually a USB micro, which goes with this flashlight. Okay. Whatever you have for rechargers, make sure you have the cord. And don't forget an AC adapter. AC to USB, in my opinion. I've also got nitrile gloves in here, black rubber nitrile. The reason for nitrile, and this is a cop thing, whenever you deal with fentanyl can pass through latex, and you can actually get high, and actually you can die from an overdose just by touching it. That's how potent fentanyl is. So nitrile is fentanyl does not pass through nitrile gloves. So nitrile is good. Also, those of you with latex allergies, nitrile is probably the way to go for you as well. So that's kind of the contents in here. I've got some wipes. I've got like antibiotic wipes in there and stuff like that. But urban carry, what's it for? Set it up for what you want to accomplish. For me, it's to get from point A to point B within 6 to 12 hours of something happening. A little extra time on the phone. I've got I got some Band-Aids in there too, aspirin. Those are all small things, but they can make a difference. You got a blistering headache or whatever. What you don't see in there is I don't have, like water purification. I don't have a camp chair. I don't have a backpack. That's not level 2. Okay. That's level 3 and 4. When you're doing some major stuff. Okay. That's not this. This is like, what can I do to make my phone last longer? What can I do to, maybe melt a frayed nylon cord. That's the lighter. Am I going to start a fire in an urban setting? Probably not. I don't need to necessarily do that. Maybe extra cash in here. Nothing too extensive, really. A little first aid stuff like that. So you're just trying to get from point A to point B. So to me, that's what urban carry is. Also, it needs to be easily moved around. So I actually have a few of these, and I've gone through and I've copied what's in this case into 2 others. And I've got one in my truck and I've got one in my SUV, my work truck and in my SUV. And I got one here at my house. So I can grab this. And mostly I grab this for the battery, the rechargeable battery that's here on the inside. That and the flashlight. Those are the 2 things I probably use the most out of here. And that's the redundant thing. So if my Baton Olight, like my oldest son here, he's lost both of them. If you lose them, you've got another one in that pack. And my stepsons, we're driving, and the charge cord is on somebody else's phone that's dedicated in the car, and they'll say, "Hey, do you got an extra battery?" And we'll pull the battery out, and they'll pull their cord out, and we'll use that battery to charge up their phone or iPod or whatever it is. So that's kind of how, and that's really the urban carry mentality, is like, it's just extending what you already have on you generally. So comments or questions down below on that, not only for the live, but also for people who watch this after the live show is over. But what do you have for your urban carry? For me, level 1 is in your pockets. Level 2 is something that's palm sized like this, easy to grab and put anywhere basically. What do you have in yours, and what are the general reasons why you have that? So there we go. That's kind of the gist of the 2 major topics. I do have one big announcement though, and this announcement, it's big. This is not like earth shattering, but one bigger announcement, and that is I have a website now dedicated to the stuff that I'm doing on YouTube, which is watches. I'm going to do some more knives. I'm going to start showing some of the flashlights I have. I have a handful of flashlights that I have over the years. Most guys have way too many flashlights, but there are reasons for the flashlights that they have. I have flashlights like this one that have 1,000 lumens. I just got one that has 16,000 lumens. And I'll tell you what, that thing, it lights up the entire county. Pretty cool. But flashlights will be another one. So I have a website, realidealgear.com. If you're interested in any watches that for sale, there's going to be a bunch of watches on. They're on there right now for sale. I've got a Zelos limited edition Aurora. It's a limited edition and it is numbered. I think this one is 118 out of 300. And so check that out. I've got a bunch of other watches on there. I think I have 6 on there right now. I'm probably going to add another 4 or 5. And the prices are just going to incrementally start to drop about every week or 2. I'm just going to start dropping prices until they sell. Shipping is included for any watch purchase inside the lower 48 United States. If it's outside of that, email me and we'll talk. We'll figure out how to get that done, if at all. I don't know. I've never shipped anything international. The Canadians, I don't think I've shipped anything to Canada yet either. So, but they do everything in metric up there. So maybe they use metric stamps or something. But anyway, check out the website, realidealgear.com. I'm going to do blogging. I'm going to do more stuff with that website. It's going to be an extension of the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel, I'm still going to do the reviews. I'm trying to do 2 a week. You're going to see probably, I wouldn't say a significant number less of the watch reviews, but I've got a number of different ideas that I want to put together and just help people see these comparisons of these different kind of watches that are out there. Same thing with knives. I've got a bunch of knives. Some tactical knives I use as a cop, and then I've got some other hunting knives. I've got the everyday carry knives, and then I've got a couple of cool knives because you got to have something cool. It just has to be that way. And so there you go. That's the big announcement. Is the website realidealgear.com, and check it out. Let me know if there's anything that can improve that website as well. The email, if you want to get a hold of me, there's a contact email on there, which is, I think, realidealgear@gmail.com. So that's the new email. And I've changed that on my About page on YouTube as well. So everything's kind of coordinated. So if you need to get a hold of me, that is the email, realidealgear@gmail.com. And of course, the website's the same prefix. So I appreciate everybody watching. Josiah, thank you for joining, giving your input on the military side of things. We're going to have to chat about your Olight problem. But I sure hope it's not the one I just gave you. I just gave you one. Didn't I give you one just recently? I thought I gave you one for Christmas. Man. All right. That's the way it goes. You have too many flashlights, you have a higher risk of losing them. But all right, there it is. I'm going to wrap it up. I don't have anybody else to say goodbye to. It's, online here visually, but just thank you everybody for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time. We'll have another one a month from now. The website, realidealgear.com, is going to have the tentative schedule for the next live streams, the next couple live streams. I'm always going to be like 2 months out in advance. And if you have ideas for a live stream, put them down in the comments of this video, send them to me in email, because the last thing I want to do is bore anybody to death with me chatting, because, man, I can talk about snow falling. Speaking of which, we have snow coming down I think it's supposed to start tonight. So I got to get going. You guys take care. We'll catch you next time.